As you go through your life and you have kids now who are 9, 10, 11, 12, a lot of people get divorced, right? And a lot of people find that phase of having kids to be quite emotionally taxing, right? It's not physically taxing because you're not running after them, but it's like emotionally taxing. And in that phase, you get a lot more moms complaining about their kids.
Welcome to the Unspeakable podcast. I'm your host, Meghan. So it is August already. Cannot believe it. And I'm going to do something a little bit different here for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to have some more casual conversations, kind of impromptu. I actually had a whole other episode teed up and ready to go. But a few days ago, my friend Vanessa Grigoriadis called me because she wanted to talk to me about the childless cat lady discourse. Now, if for some reason you haven't been following this, congratulations. I assume you are aware, however, that a couple of weeks ago, it surfaced that vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance had said a couple of surprising and, pretty offensive for most people things about women without children. These were remarks that he made about 3 years ago with Tucker Carlson, having to do with his hypothesis that women without children were ruining the world. People without children generally did not have enough of a stake in the future to really deserve to vote and things like that. In fairness, I do think these remarks were taken out of context and, are coming from a place that most people were not quite understanding the big picture. But in any case, Vanessa had some surprising things to say. She actually is a mom. She's got 2 kids. But she had a theory that it was so difficult to be a parent these days, and moms are so stressed out that childless cat ladies are actually having the last laugh. And she wanted to come on and talk about that. And I thought that was a good idea. Now, Vanessa is a journalist. She has a long and very distinguished career as a magazine writer. She was and is one of the most lauded writers of celebrity profiles of the last couple decades here. She now is a podcaster, now, as are we all. But she's an insightful and very engaging person. And, this conversation, we are talking about a very specific cohort. This is pretty limited to a particular kind of person, but nonetheless, I think it's valuable and I think you'll enjoy it. If you are a paying subscriber, you will hear the whole thing. If you are not yet a paying subscriber, you're going to get a little taste. And if you want to hear the rest, you should join me at meghandown.substack.com. And here I am with Vanessa Grigoriadis. Enjoy. Vanessa, welcome to The Unspeakable.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. My favorite podcast. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, you're just saying that because I paid you. Because I paid you to be my friend. Okay, this is not normally how I book guests, but yesterday you called me up out of the blue because you wanted to talk about the childless cat lady discourse, and we talked about that, and then decided that we should just talk about it on an episode. So here we are. So let's just start. Why did you call me?
Okay, well, first of all, I would think this is how you book people. That you're like, I would like to talk to that person, but it'd be more interesting if I have my podcast situation running at the same time. Okay, so you are a childless person who does not have a cat, but loves large dogs, but also has written quite extensively on childlessness as a personal choice, as something that you don't reach some state of psychological maturation just because you have a child. I just don't know that brings you to like a higher understanding of yourself. It's more like then you maybe get to live that part of your life again, but it doesn't like all click into place, or at least it didn't for me. Like, oh, this is the way I am. But what I think is incredible, and the reason that I called you, is that I feel you and I are close in age, in midlife. that I feel that these days, the moms that I know who are midlife moms, maybe had their kids a little late, are so miserable because we're way beyond like, you know, the having it all economy. Like we're in some other outer space economy where you're supposed to take care of your kids while remote working, just the way you did during COVID, and also do elder care and also deal, you know, with your job and blah, 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 blah. And everybody is running around like a chicken with her head cut off. Whereas like the childless women that I know in midlife who have sort of sorted out their feelings to a degree about like not having kids and are past that. Like there was definitely a phase, right? Where everybody's like, oh my God, I have this little baby. The baby's so cute. I don't have any time for you. Sorry, we're not friends anymore. I think that was not fun.
You never did that. You never did that to me.
Well, I genuinely like you and never felt it was like an obligation to have to hang out with you. So you got the special white glove treatment. But I don't know. I just think that there's a weird way in which, as you know, the kids in my cohort enter like adolescent and teenage years, which are pretty difficult for parents. I see a lot of my childless friends being like, so cool. I remote work, so I'm doing that from Paris this month. And you can go deal with the IEP for your kids and talking to the school district and getting a tutor and blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm over here, you know, like living the life.
Doing a middle-aged Sex in the City, doing our own personal Sex in the City reboots. Okay, but like, let's just, I mean, I definitely want to dig into this, but I think we should just be clear. We're talking about a particular cohort, as you said. So we're talking about people who work in, you know, kind of, what do they call it? Thinking jobs, what do they call that? Intellectual, no, they don't call it intellectual. Just, you know, we are sort of laptop jockeys. I think that was Caitlin Flanagan's coinage. So, but people who were either working at home even before the pandemic or started doing so during the pandemic and have not had to change that. And also people who had their kids later, as you said. So, and are now in the situation of having still pretty young kids and aging parents that have to be taken care of. Also, maybe people from smaller families, fewer siblings, so less ability to kind of spread the labor with respect to taking care of parents, all those kinds of factors.
People not living in the same general vicinity as their parents, being spread out all over the country. Yeah.
Yes. So I think we are talking about a particular kind of thing. And there are still lots of people in the country not living that way and still living close to family and having closer ties and all that sort of thing. So I think we should be clear that we're not speaking for everyone, but we are certainly speaking for more people than in the past.
Right.
So, but I think this is fascinating because before you called me, actually, just like an hour or so before, I was talking with someone I work with who is in her early 30s and is really frustrated that she doesn't have a family yet and would very much like to have that and just hasn't met anyone and is feeling left out. And she was the childless cat lady discourse was like making her really anxious and upset, but in a very different way because she felt like, you know, she had been left out. And then it was funny because then you called me and said, exactly that the childless cat ladies were having the last laugh.
Okay, so. Again, that's the difference in age, right? Like that's what we're talking about. Is she's on one side of this and she's starting to see it happen and realizing she's being left out. And I'm talking about the people who then come out the other side and say like, oh my God, parenting a 13-year-old looks sort of hard. You know, that I'm glad not to be part of that. But look, it's possible that I'm coming at this with a bit of the, you know, well, hey, let's all join together, the childless cat ladies and the miserable moms, and let's take down JD Vance. Like there might be a performative.
So there's a coalition. Yes.
It looks to me like there's going to be some sort of coalition, you know, coming together, and it's not going to really include the married guys, probably.
Well, except for the white dudes for Kamala. I think they're having their call.
They're definitely going to have that. But I think
speak.
in terms of the people who are going to be particularly freaked out about JD Vance, like it's going to end up being a female-centric cohort just because of the way he's talking about this is bananas, you know? And sure, there's lots of trad wives around and maybe they believe that, you know, the more kids they have, the more voice they should have. But there's just something very creepy about that. Like moms are so disenfranchised in this country. We have like no childcare. There's so many like horrible things that are happening that the idea that this guy's just going to like in one fell swoop, switch it all up and, you know, change the dynamics in the country. So moms are suddenly on a pedestal and everybody is like bowing to them is just, it just doesn't, it rings extremely false. You know, it feels like it's just feels like a strategy.
Okay. So, because I mean, I guess you can make the argument that if people like you are feeling like moms are disenfranchised, for someone to come along and say, hey, we need to empower families. I don't think he's using that language. Maybe he is now, but, you know, we need to get away from this sort of anti-natalist, extremely individualistic, progressive, secular culture and sort of move toward the more positive aspects of the way things were in the past, or at least what we imagine things were in the past. So I do see how one could, you know, from if you were looking at this from a distance, say like, oh, why can't these two things line up? But yeah.
That was a taste of my conversation with journalist, podcaster, and mom, Vanessa Grigoriadis. If you want to hear the rest, and it's really good, it's super interesting, become a paying subscriber at meghandaum.substack.com. You can just go to Substack and search The Unspeakable with Meghan Daum, or you can probably just type in The Unspeakable. I will tell you that Vanessa is a veteran long-form journalist and the co-founder of Campside Media. She's also the co-creator of the Chameleon and Fallen Angels podcast, and she hosted New York Magazine's tabloid series on Ivanka Trump. She's a National Magazine Award winner and has written numerous profiles for places like Vanity Fair, New York Times, Rolling Stone. She lives in Brooklyn with her husband and 2 kids. Quickly, I'm going to tell you that the last Unspeakeasy retreat of the year is October 21st through 24th in Woodstock, New York. This is an all-women retreat, 3 nights. Guest speakers are Tara Henley and Carol Hooven. It's going to be fantastic. It's also filling up quickly, so go to theunspeakeasy.com, retreats, and find out about that. Okay, if you want to hear the rest of the conversation with Vanessa, become a paying subscriber on the Substack. Otherwise, I will be back next week with another super nuanced guest. See you then.